Yo, we was getting busy. Like we have some of the best times listening to music.
We do.
And we have a couple of topics, I guess, that we wrote down
Hmm.
for this practice session. But when we were listening to that MF Doom
Hmm.
before this, and as we started this, now we're just thinking how critical music is to our daily lives.
It is. I mean, I grew up with music playing in every single household that I
Straight up.
visited. Both sets of grandparents, my parents, everyone, cousins, aunt's house, uncle's house. Who didn't have the remember and the stereos used to be real big?
Yeah,
The in-home stereos were big with the record player
it
on
was
the top.
like a bunch of different.
Yeah,
It was
a bunch of
stacked.
dishes stacked.
The
Yeah.
receiver,
And everybody
cassette
had
player.
them. Everybody had them. I thought growing up, I thought I'm supposed to have one of those when I get older too.
Well,
But then it
technology took
changed.
care of that.
Right. So I've grown up. I've listened, as I said before we started, my childhood is linked. Certain songs will take me back to a
Take you right
place
there, yo.
in my childhood that I can remember. If you don't know, I grew up on Long Island, but I have family in Queens. And we would drive back and forth along the Belt Parkway, which is along the water. And there are certain songs that make me think of that ride.
That right.
Looking along the water as you're driving back out to Long Island or coming from Brooklyn, from East New York, coming back from there, from Start Island. Driving back. And the songs that was, if it wasn't Red Alert, if it wasn't the reggae set, it was some hot, old school, I want to thank you, all of those old jams.
Joints.
Like that take me back to my childhood
Right.
growing up. And I wonder if my kids are going to have that. Like, what music are our kids, are they gonna have those thoughts about music and stuff?
I don't know, yo. Like my son does like a lot of music that I love, like Tribe Called Quest,
Right.
Wu Tang, Doom. He loves MF Doom.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm sure that when he gets older, hearing some of those songs, if he hears them, he'll have to seek them out because it's just different now.
Right.
He's not going to listen to radio like that, and they're not going to be playing MF Doom. But I don't know. It's different. It's different.
Like
So
all
I
my
think
girls gonna be listening to Erica Badu and being like, I remember when my mom used to
now
play
that's more likely to happen. Erica, they could be like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying, growing up in a household, stuff like that.
And Mary.
The stuff I listen to is like, you may not listen, you may not hear Griselda on the radio
Yeah, you might not
20
hear
years from now
West
on
Side
the radio. You won't hear him on
Guns.
the radio now.
Yeah.
So, but some of the stuff, yes. So I think that it'll still happen, but not to the degree that it did for us, yo.
Because we have so much. There are so many things. I mean, my grandparents played what's that dude? I be stroking.
That's what I be doing. Be
Stroking
stroking to the east, be stroking to the west, be stroking with the woman that I love best. Be
Like
stroking.
songs like that, and like James Brown.
Listen, man, James Brown in
Popcorn.
my house, yo.
Popcorn was
Come on,
my
man.
song for vacuuming.
Come on.
Vacuuming to James Brown is serious business.
So, funny thing, right? So when I went home, right? So growing up, Saturday mornings was it was like, okay, music is playing, and the radio station in Rochester played what's it called? What's like old school songs or whatever. Damn, what's that song? The one song, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, I'll think of it. So they always played the oldies but goodies Saturday morning up until 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'm listening to all the James Brown stuff, all of them, Marvin Gaye stuff. Well, older than Marvin Gaye, Isleys and all those guys,
Isleys, yeah.
right? And I went home, and they're still doing it. But now
Wow.
Saturday mornings, you're getting the 70s, you're getting 80s, and you're getting 90s stuff.
Wow, that's considered old school.
Yes,
now?
it is. 90s is 30 years ago.
Shit.
You know what I'm saying? So
90s are. Oh my gosh.
it's crazy.
So like
So I was like,
SWV is like old school.
that's old school. That's old school. That's not old school, but it's old
to
school.
You. What? So like Aaliyah, back, forth and forth.
All that, yo.
All of that is considered old school
30
jams
years
now?
ago. So we were listening to the oldies but goodies in the 80s. Growing up, that was from the 70s, 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But really mostly from the 70s.
Yeah, it was mostly
Because the 60s was a different era. You know,
Yeah.
only the Isley's was around from the 50s all the way through.
Right.
But, you know what I mean? That was only 10 years removed.
You know that song I love? Diamond in the back.
Oh, man.
summertime, Kicking the scene with the gangster lean. Ooh. That
Man.
song. Oh my goodness, it would come on. There's a the way that song comes in, the way it starts, the way the instrumentation of the song and his voice.
You may not drive a big Cadillac.
Yeah.
Woo, he was so ill.
So
son.
smooth.
So
with
smooth.
it. Oh my gosh.
You can't even get that feeling. That's a different conversation, but you can't get that feeling from music now.
No.
You can't get that feeling
You
from
can't.
music.
And that wasn't even our time period, but we understood
We're
what
there.
that meant.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, because my dad, sometimes he'll just be like, come on, man, let's go take a ride through the country. Right? And we would
And the
just go
good music
drive.
playing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now, hey, little did I know, maybe my mom, they just had an argument. She was like, get the hell out of my face.
And he took you with him.
Yeah, let's go to the country, man. I'm like, yeah, we're going to the country. I get to see some cows and stuff. Yeah, let's go to the country with my dad. You know what I mean? But that music be playing all the time. And to this day, I listen to music every single day.
Yeah.
You know, every day, yo.
I be mad about my commute when I gotta go to work because I can only get one song.
One
in.
song. Because your
I'm
commute.
like,
Because why is that? Why? Because you're what? Because your commute is what?
3 minutes. And even when I leave your house,
3 minutes.
when I leave your house to go to my house, it's only like
2.5?
2.5 songs I'm getting in. 2.5 songs.
Don't let James Brown come on.
Listen,
You might get one song in. You know,
One
James make them
song.
7-minute joints.
hell yeah. You be sitting there listening. What's one of your favorite old school? Okay, because you know, like in the 70s, there were concept albums. There were soundtrack albums.
One
There were
artist's whole soundtrack.
a whole soundtrack. What's one of your favorite? Which one of your favorites? Like
Soundtrack albums?
soundtrack album? I guess.
Or just because that's kind of very specific. But if you gotta go, what was it, the Mac? With we was just talking about.
Is that Curtis Mayfield?
Curtis Mayfield.
Curtis
That
Mayfield.
soundtrack album
Okay.
is probably the greatest soundtrack album of all time, especially from one artist.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. So for that time period,
Yeah.
but you fast forward to our younger generation.
Oh,
I
best
loved Dead Presidents.
soundtrack album?
Yes, because it
Ooh.
was going back to all of those songs where Isaac Hayes.
That's hard. That was hard.
That was a hard. I got that soundtrack from my Columbia House subscription. To CDs.
Oh, Columbia House. Oh, Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you, Columbia
Thank you,
House.
Columbia. They lucky they existed in a time before emails, because listen, we'd have been creating 20 emails with a damn CD collection
For free
out
for
of
my
this
1
world.
penny.
And then BMG.
And PMG.
Look,
So
yo, that's surprising.
The Dead President. I love that
That's
soundtrack.
how, no, this is a great soundtrack, but Love Jones soundtrack?
Oh well, okay. Well, that's a different kind of thing.
It's a
Okay.
soundtrack.
It is a sound. Oh, I have that one too, and I
I
actually
know
went
you
to that
do.
premiere. I remember I was at school, and I went to Union Station to that AMC theater, and you know how I won the soundtrack? It was taped under my seat. You had to lift your seat up.
Oh,
They
yeah, you
had
told me about that. You
giveaways.
told me about that.
And
That's
I
dope.
lifted the seat up, and I had the soundtrack
That's
because
dope.
that Maxwell song on there.
Listen, man.
Woo, that's something. Woo, that extended version have you doing some things.
Listen, look, ew. Jordan Kennedy. I hope you're not watching this right now.
Whatever. How did they get here?
Who?
How did they get here?
Listen, man.
From having sex?
Ooh. What podcast is this? This is what we talk about at the table.